Welcome back to special talk show AHLA seminar on TVku. And in this segment, we will more explore about tuberculosis research have been conducted by Faculty of Health Science Universitas Nuswantara. How they can be prevented of tuberculosis and maybe eliminated in the community. Mrs. Yani, maybe you can talk more about the research in Faculty of Health Science in Universitas Nuswantara.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Talk about research. Actually, we have a lot of research that have been done by our faculty and also with AHLA in the community or in the elementary school students and something like that. Like we're looking for how the stigma is or how the literacy among community and the students. So as we can see, from the research data about stigma in community participated by 1,522 respondents, the stigma questionnaire that developed by the Van-Rie scale, we found that 40% of the respondents said agree that some people might not want to eat or drink with friends who has TB. It means that the people prefer not to have a close relationship with the patient because they're afraid to get infected by the patient. And also we can see that if the TB patient want to open their status that, okay, this is me with TB, it make the transmission of TB is very easy because there is no prevention that they can perform like using mask or something like that. And the same result also we found in the question that some people do not want those who have TB play with their children. So it's not only from the community the stigma is, but also they teach the stigma to the children. And 44% agree, which means parents want to be let their children play with TB patient. But more than half respondents also said that not to give stigma to TB patient, as they disagree that some people prefer not to have a TB patient living in their community. It's mean it's kind of like and about 20% respondent said that people who have TB are dirty and cursed. It's mean that their knowledge about TB is need to be increased because they still believe that TB is dirty and cursed, as we know that TB is not like that. And majority disagree that people with TB must have been something wrong or deserve to be punished. We know that TB can be cured with the treatment, like for 6 months or 9 months taking medication. And 66% agree that people who have TB should be allowed to work, which is even in the fact some patient maybe won't be able to go to the work because the side effect of the medication that they take from TB medication. And stigma is also caused by not understanding deeply about what TB is, and that makes someone build stigma to TB patient. So yeah, stigma is like something never end in our community. And another research about TB literacy, which is followed by 1,484 respondents, so that more than half understand about the importance of immunization for TB prevention. As health ministry policy, or we can see in Bahasa is Permenkes, number 67 year 2016, state that BCG immunization is one of the immunization that mandatory give to newborn to prevent the child from TB infection. And less than 30% respondent said that assessing which environment in high or low risk TB of low or high risk of TB is difficult. And more than half respondents said that it is easy to understand smoking is become one of the risk factors of TB. It's been that they know that smoking is related to TB infection, but it's still almost 50% difficult to decide not to smoke. It's kind of like they know the smoking has related to TB infection, but they still don't want to take decision not to smoke. So it's kind of like the literacy is not, we can see that the literacy is still low because they know but they don't want to take any action about that. And it can be said that the good knowledge is not enough, but also need to increase the literacy in the community. It's very important why we need to increase literacy for prevention in the TB infection in Indonesia. And also majority respondents know how to get TB medication as it provided free by primary healthcare in their area, which means that people already know where they have to access the medication and where they have to screening about TB in their body. And also another risk factor that hard to do by community in prevention TB transmission is not to cough and spit in any places. We can see that Indonesia is still have a community living under the poor line, which is they have like a slum area and they behave like a cough or spit in any places. So yeah, it's still so many problems that we're still facing about TB. And overall, the problem remain with community is performing behavior on TB prevention is quite hard. Yeah, this is our homework together. Yeah, but an opposite result of literacy research were found among elementary students. It's quite surprised about the result, which more than half said difficult to find information about TB and difficult to find how to prevent TB, and majority is hard to understand information about TB. It is mean that parents need to guide their children and teach their children about what TB is, as we know that school is become one of the places that TB can be easily transmitted to each other, especially from the students, among students in the school. And it is needed more effort to prevent TB transmission in school. And the good news is the elementary student, they perform regularly practice hand washing activities, which is can minimize the transmission of the TB bacteria, and use mask when they coughing and doing regular exercise, which is good for the children. And also you have, maybe you will shock about this result, because this is in elementary school, which is maybe they are around 12 or maybe 10 years old. But it's almost 30% said that it is hard to decide not to smoke. Do you know what it means? It is mean that the students in the elementary school might they already start to smoke. So it's very, very bad news. Yeah, it's very dangerous because we know that smoking is very close or become a risk factor of TB infection. And in general, communities should improve in minimize stigma and increase health literacy as one of the keys TB prevention. But we still need to do something for children, especially students, to act on TB prevention. Like, yeah. Yeah, this is the result that maybe it is the small result that I told you about the research that we have done.
Thank you, Yani, about your explanation. I think TB literacy is still very challenging in Indonesia, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, we will talk more about TB literacy. Don't go anywhere. We will back to discuss about how district public-private make to eliminate it or to handle TB in Indonesia.